A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I'm Carlos Brown, course host, and back in the saddle here on this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. The guest menu looks like this. Our regular guest. In hour number one, Coach Van Pettaway will join me. We'll be talking some Swac basketball and basketball in general. He will join me in hour number one. Hour number two, following Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network will join me. And then last but not least, Rod Walker of the Times-Picayune, New Orleans Advocate, will get his top 5 teams in the NFL. Talk some Saints. I think we'll even get a little Pittsburgh Steelers in there, if you don't mind. It's going to be a very interesting show. Here's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. Since I was off last week, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, Chris Crenshaw, interim head baseball coach at Southern University. I have some thoughts on that whole situation, but he's the interim head Southern University baseball coach. Celebration Bowl and Swac Mid Challenge is in the news. They have a new title sponsor. We'll tell you about that. Former HBCU athletes, they filed a lawsuit against the NCAA over discrimination involving academic progress metric. That's what's trending. If you care to have a comment about what's trending, headlines, as we call it, you can please do so at the Carlos Brown Show at gmail.com across all social media platforms. Also, I have the Carlos Brown Show messenger page is open on Facebook and, of course, on Facebook. Also, Instagram. And also the Twitter. So last week, of course, I was out and I had a health crisis. That's just the way I will put it. And I want to thank everyone for the thoughts and definitely the prayers. And, it puts things in perspective. Also, I would like to thank my better half who literally saved my life. And so I thank her and I appreciate her. And, when someone loves you that much, they'll do whatever they can for you. So I appreciate that. Now, feeling much better, exercising, low sodium diet, eating healthy, and that's what's important. And guys, do me a favor. Make sure you take care of your health. A lot of times you're silent or something's not right and you keep it in. Don't do that. Please don't do that. You literally can be putting yourself in harm's way. So once again, thank everybody. Also, close friends who checked on me, Dr. Prince, Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmond. So I did feel all of the love and appreciation, and that's including everybody. So with that being said, just kind of wanted to give you an update on how I'm doing and feeling, very, just much better. Much better. Chris Crenshaw, interim head baseball coach at Southern University. It kind of caught a lot of us off guard 2 weeks ago, right as the show ended. I got a text message and was saying to me, in fact, Coach Jackson would be leaving the Southern University baseball program. Of course, took the wind out of me. I'm like, what's going on here? But Director of Athletics Roman Banks announced assistant baseball coach Chris Crenshaw will take over as the interim head coach of Southern University baseball program effective immediately. Now, Crenshaw becomes the seventh head coach in Jaguar baseball history following the resignation of Coach Kerrick Jackson. Took a job with Major League Baseball. Here's a quote, end quote. It makes sense to hire internally at this juncture. And this is from Coach Banks. And we are very fortunate to have a high-quality candidate on the staff with Coach Crenshaw. With the challenges that our student-athletes have endured during these unprecedented times, we wanted to ensure some continuity in the leadership of the baseball program. And another quote, but this one's from Coach Crenshaw. I am grateful for our athletic director, Roman Banks, for appointing me to lead the SU baseball program. I know this is a difficult time for our student athletes, as any transition is, but we will come together as a team and continue to compete. Now, a couple of sources told me that it wasn't per se over money with Coach Jackson, but it was simply over, and this is just what my sources have indicated to me, it was over an extension. The administration offered a 1-year extension. Coach Jackson wanted more. So I'm deeply disappointed that Coach Jackson has moved on. He landed in a great situation, but what if? What should have? What could have? That's the way I look at it. For as the interim position, as far as with Coach Crenshaw, yeah, it does make sense. You know, he's been on the staff and had some time in the conference at Jackson State University. So continuity is what Coach Banks has stated that is the best at this time. Now, my question will be simply this. Don't be surprised. And this is just opinion, not fact, okay? That, one, if the season goes on and Coach Crenshaw does well because the cupboard is not bare at all, will he have the inside track to get the job permanently? And I would not be surprised at all. But they will have a national search. But it's been my experience in this state. Heck, with Southern University, you're required to open the position up, but you can already have the ace in the bullpen already, if you get my drift. And speaking of baseball, let me just say hello, as always, to Dr. Prince. Dr. Prince, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my friend. How are you, man? Good to have you back.
I appreciate it. I'm feeling much better. Much better.
That's all right.
It's amazing. Amazing with a little exercise and eating healthy, drop some weight already.
Hey, man, that's the key to life. And thank God for your queen.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes it's good. It's good.
Right.
It's good to hear him fuss, ain't it?
And let me tell you, does not play with the new program. Does not play. I mean, not one semi-ounce. But you appreciate it, though.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good to have you around, my friend. Good to have you around.
Thank you. Crenshaw, interim. Mm-hmm. Did it shock you? Because, you know, I'm saying it sent waves through Southern University, but not just Southern University, but the conference.
No,
baseball world.
It doesn't shock you because of the timing in which the move is being made. Because when you look at it, we're on the brink of the baseball season. I know everybody's talking about spring football and all of that, but baseball season is literally about 45 days from opening up. And so if it's going to be on schedule, and so Crenshaw is the logical sense. And as you mentioned in your opening statement, the cupboard's not bare. You hope that Crenshaw could maneuver the pieces that are in place and have a legitimate run, a strong run that would consider him to be the long-term fix, in a short time situation right now.
Yeah, but you're not. Well, I guess your experience in being with baseball, it shocked me because it was right after the show ended 2 weeks ago, and I got the text message. And I guess you shouldn't be shocked in times like these, but that extension.
The Kerry Jackson move is shocking, but putting Crenshaw.
Oh yeah,
in
that's
place,
what I meant.
Okay, right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now the Jackson move is rather surprising. Okay, and to confirm what you were saying, that this was not about money, even though he's going to get a nice, handsome salary behind it. But you got to look at the overall big picture. From my understanding, he had a home built in Baton Rouge, which is an indication that someone wants to be nestled into the community and the environment. And you don't just, go and build a home. If you plan on getting out of there ASAP, you would want to rent or something like that. But when you look at what could be, and you hear me beat this drum all the time about what baseball can be, could be, and should be, especially on our level, you would be amazed at money is not the cure-all for a lot of people. People want the comfort. People want the confidence that you believe in what we're doing, and as a result, we're going to extend you, 1 year. It's kind of almost like an insult for what the man done in such a short time. You got coaches who've been in place who have not even come close to the mountaintop of what he's achieved in 2.5 years.
Well, people are weighing in already. Willard says, in his opinion, 1 year extension equals we don't believe that you're the right guy long term, which would be ridiculous.
Well, and with that message being said, then it becomes a survival mode. Okay, then you're lame duck basically. So if we don't believe, the hidden message is we don't believe you're the right guy, then let me go where my services are much more appreciated, where I feel like I can be a greater impact, and that probably is one of the undercurrents on why he's no longer at Southern.
I'm going to dig a little deeper into all of this. It's something just doesn't sit right down in my spirit. No, I'm healthy. I'm getting healthy. It's not another scare, but that is just a strange event. And I'll just say this, and then I'll move on. If you move on because of a better opportunity, you can't fault anybody for that. But it just doesn't seem settled on this situation. So I'm going to
it is a
get
better
my sources back to dig deeper.
It is a better opportunity. You're talking about Major League Baseball and the resources alone that he would have available to do what he does. And instead of looking at the glass half empty, let's try and look at the glass half full, because he is, quote unquote, a former part of the brotherhood of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And the type of conference that he's going to be the president over is considered like a summer league collegiate draft conference, which means you can get possibly more looks of our student athletes, more look of our coaches to be on those staffs, and greater exposure to the Southwestern Athletic Conference and HBCU sports as a whole. And when you're trying to put something together like a program building a legacy, it's not necessarily about the money. It's about the vote of confidence that your supervisors would have in the direction that you're trying to go in. And once again, you say, we'll dig deeper, because I'm going to dig deeper with you as well, because I look at it as a blow, not only to Southern, but to Southwestern Athletic Conference baseball.
Well, I know teams in the conference, they're getting ready very shortly. And I'm sure they had maybe some fall ball practice. But it's interesting. But it is what it is. You accept it and you move on. But welcome, Chris Crenshaw, interim head baseball coach at Southern University. Let's see. We're going through our notes and trending stories here. Celebration Bowl, MEAC Swac Challenge, announces new title sponsor. And we know it's Cricket Wireless. You know, Cricket Wireless had a deal with Southern University a few years back, but the annual December Bowl matchup involving the champions of the Swac and the MEAC announced on Wednesday it has adopted a new sponsor. Cricket Wireless will be the title sponsor of the Celebration Bowl and the MEAC Swac Challenge. Of course, because of COVID, none this year. No Swac MEAC Challenge, of course, and no Celebration Bowl. So that's good news for the conference. Also, former HBCU athletes filed a lawsuit against the NCAA over discrimination involving academic progress metric. And this is like a 58-page document alleging historically discriminatory practice by the NCAA, which have hurt HBCUs. And the lawsuit was filed Thursday in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana. Demands that the controversial academic progress rate be abolished. Despite the NCAA's fundamental promise to refrain from discriminating based on race in educational programs, the NCAA has a long history of discriminating against black student athletes and teams at HBCUs through the implementation of its so-called academic reforms, the lawsuit said. And of course, the 58-page document alleges historically discriminatory practice by the NCAA, which have hurt HBCUs, including placing inequitable standards on member institutions because of the challenges involving graduation rates and lower academic progress rates, said lead attorney Beth Fagan. So we will monitor that. And also the lawsuit indicates that despite historically black colleges and universities only making up 6% of Division I schools, 72% of all programs banned from postseason competitions are HBCUs. And former Savannah State basketball player Troy Manasseh says such harsh punishments levied by the NCAA for the program failing to meet the APR benchmark cost him not only the ability to participate in postseason play, but possible professional pursuits. And he also goes on to state, it caused me a lot of emotional distress. Wonder where that's going to go. I almost have to have a legal person at least look at the legal parameters and get that person's expertise. We'll do that. And then finally, before we take our first time out, mental health. And just want to mention this quickly. Of course, it's been a very hellacious year for a lot of people. Pandemic, job loss. It just breaks my heart when I watch on television the food lines, like in Dallas, Texas, and not singling Dallas, Texas out, but all over. The richest, quote, unquote, country in the history of this world, or one, I won't say the richest, but one, that you have people lined up for food. People living from paycheck to paycheck, and then there's those who lost their jobs and not living paycheck to paycheck. And so the mental health and even adults and our student athletes, freshmen, a local store here in Baton Rouge about how tough it's been for the student athletes, particularly freshmen. When you're a freshman, you're in college, you're able to do things and it's academics, but it's also a social life and not doing all of that. So stress is rough and it's tough. And so with most institutions graduating students and student athletes, yesterday, congratulations to the graduates at Southern University, student athletes, and also for those who graduated throughout the conference and those that will graduate. Congratulations to you. Hats off. It has been a tough year 2021, hopefully, it's going to be a lot better. Guest today, Coach Van Pettaway. Coming up shortly, Charles Edmond and Rod Walker. And specifically with Coach Pettaway, we did talk this week, but prior to that, we talked a couple of weeks ago. And he wanted to give some information. I made a note with the basketball tournament that he's affiliated with. I got him a note, CIT information. Yeah, it's a new concept that they want to try. We'll get him to talk about that. And, of course, non-conference tough for some, quality wins for others. And, of course, we'll still continue to get you ready for the conference race. That's fast approaching. And I will say this, stock up, thumbs up, men's basketball, Prairie View, Texas Southern, UAPB, Alabama A&M. And I'm going to try to incorporate some top 5 basketball teams, and I can see now on social media it's already a lot of discussion. Some polls I've seen had Alabama and number 1. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because it's going to be a lot of discussion and debating who's number 1. Also, I'm going to talk with Coach Pettaway because Southern University on the men's side hadn't won a game, but, to be honest with you, they've played the few games that they played a tough schedule. But no excuses. When they get in the conference, it'll be teams of equal competition. So I'm still anxious to see how everything goes. Also, when I talked to Charles Edmond, he mentioned to me about, and I think it'll be the norm across college basketball, 10% attendance for Alcorn. And then if you know how Alcorn's gymnasium is, or arena, the bottom bowl, no seating. You'll have to sit at the top. And I think that'll kind of be the norm or close to that somewhere. So, that being said, let's take a time out. I appreciate people weighing in, saying it's good to have you back. Hope all is well. Appreciate it. So, take a time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
The station designed with you in mind. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
As a dad, you'll probably spend years teaching your son how to hit a baseball, how to throw a tight spiral and hit a receiver, how to spring off a diving board and hit the water, how to hit a 1-wood and a 9-iron, how to hit the bullseye, how to hit the strike zone, hit a jump shot, hit the open man, hit the hockey net, and maybe the most challenging of all, how to hit the books. But the question is this: how much time will you spend teaching him what not to hit? Teach your son early and often that all violence against women is wrong. For tips on what to say, visit endabuse.org. Brought to you by the Family Violence Prevention Fund, the Waite Institute for Violence Prevention, the Ad Council, and this station.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
Drivers and bicyclists both have the right to be on the road and travel safely. And when we're on the road together, safety is a shared responsibility. State law requires drivers to maintain at least 3 feet of clearance when passing bicyclists. And bicyclists should always ride with the direction of traffic and follow all traffic signals. It's safer. It's courteous. It's the law. A message from the Regional Planning Commission Pedestrian and Bicycle Program.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Before I get to my first guest today, I also want to thank my best friend in the whole wide world, Michael Elam, for all his support and checking on me as well during the health crisis. So, friends, how many of us have them? But I got a great friend. Well, I'll say 5 stars. And I know in football you have the stars. Basketball, huh? Let me ask. And with that being said, first guest of today's show, Coach Van Pettaway, who I appreciate him as well. I love him as a brother. He checked on me as well. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm even more happier to hear your voice back on the airways, because we were concerned about you, and it's a good thing that God has his amazing hands around you, because you're still with us and doing well.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And speaking of do they have, how is the basketball? Same thing, ratings, or it's a little bit different?
Well, I think basketball is going to be a little bit different because of all the teams that who can't play. You know, this virus is not helping anyone out. I mean, it's affecting games played on a daily basis. You got several teams that are in quarantine. Both of the A&M teams are in quarantine right now. So I think it'll be a while before you get a real true sense of ratings. And I think you can look at football that way. You know, there's the big debate now about how those teams should be ranked, with a team like Ohio State not playing that many games and being ranked so high. So I think we're going to have to hit the pause button when it comes to the rankings right now. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you won't get I don't think you'll get a true picture of teams, because you got a different amount of games being played by each team.
Yeah, because some teams are shutting it down. And before we kind of get into the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and maybe we'll delve a little bit into the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, because, you know, you've had some good wins there as well. Coach K, let me just ask you honestly. He came out and said we shouldn't be playing right now. And, you know, what happened? People comes up. It comes out as saying, would he be taking this harsh of a stance, or this stance, if he hadn't lost 2 home games?
Yeah, and you know that's true. But what they're also saying is that Coach K and Patino are 2 of the people who came out before the season ever started and said we should wait until January. We in other words, let's give the scientists and the virus an opportunity to find out how fatal this disease is, and how and if we will have a better handle on it. Now, it was pointed out yesterday that Coach K, before the season ever started, had the same feelings. And so now the 2 losses, in my opinion, are just helping him to realize his decision, because he knew that over the summer, this is the first time he has not had an opportunity to be with his team, to do the things that they normally do because of the COVID protocols.
Okay.
So, and when you have that many new people, remember something I told you all early on when we started talking about the Swac and college basketball? I told you, in my opinion, the teams that were returning veterans would have the upper hand, because even though you can't practice during the summer, if you're not changing if you're not having dramatic changes in your philosophy, in your offense and defense, those kids have a big advantage because they've already been through the system and they know it. But for the teams that are bringing in all these kids, like these one-and-done programs like Duke and Kentucky, you see what's happening to them? They're suffering because they have not had the normal time that they would have to get these kids prepared. And I think all of that is part of Coach K's reason for coming out saying, we made a mistake by starting this season. We never should have started. And that's why he wants to pause it.
Yeah, I had to get that opportunity in because, Coach K is the person, they love him, but they love to hate him.
Well, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But now I'll bring something else to your attention. Do you remember when Coach K had the back surgery? Did you notice he had the back surgery during a season where he was getting his head whipped?
Oh,
and then one of his doctors messed him up because the doctor came out and said, well, we had planned to have this surgery in the summer. So before the season started, the surgery was going to be in the summer. But what coaches are saying, because he was getting his head whipped, he moved that time frame up and he got off that sideline. Yeah, he got off that sideline. So, I mean, those are facts. That's out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh. Well, I had to exit, Coach, and per se, I was just kind of monitoring the back and forth,
right,
with Coach K. But non-conference, that's why I just kind of titled it that way. Non-conference, tough for some, but in the conference, there have been some what I would consider quality non-conference wins. Now I'll stop right there because what I'm going to bring up now, we kind of talked about it, and one of the good things is you try to be a realist. You're also a fan. You're a sports talk host, and quite honestly, what I'm going to bring up now to you again is when I asked you about when you're looking at teams that have not gotten off to a good start, but the quality of competition that they're playing. Zero in on Southern University. And one of the things I will say that Southern University fans are so passionate. Sometimes it doesn't matter who you lose to, but you have to slap yourself back into reality. They look for wins. So Southern University, share with the audience what you told me about some people, maybe kind of concerned they're starting the basketball season, but look at who they're playing, my gosh.
Right. Okay, let me tell you from a coaching standpoint. When I watch Southern, and when I say watch, I've seen 2 of their games, and they have not been in person, but they've been on television where I can rewind and see stuff that I needed to see. I like what I see with Southern. Yeah, they played the number 3 ranked team in the country. That's Iowa. Mm-hmm. Iowa has probably the biggest stud in college basketball this year in Gaza.
Oh, he can play.
So he's a man-child. Now, not only has Iowa beaten Southern, they've beaten everybody that they've played. They've scored over 100 points 3 times already this year, and nobody stopped Gaza. Well, what I saw in that game, I saw Southern play with the other guys on the floor. They didn't have anybody to stop Gaza, and no one has so far this year. But when you look at the total game, the things that Coach Woods was trying to get accomplished in those games, he got some of those things done. This is what the Southern fans got to do. They got to have patience because now, once again, remember I said this before the season ever started, Southern's got a lot of new faces on that team, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, 2 things. He was not able to work with them in the summer, and then when they did allow them to start practicing, what happened? They got hit with the virus, and so they had to press pause. So look at how many days those kids have missed when it comes to practice and working on their game because of the virus. But yet and still, they still get on the floor and they play a good brand of basketball. I just think they just need to be patient. To me, for the Southern fans, they need to have a little more patience. They've got a good team. He's got some people back from last year, but he's trying to incorporate a lot of new people. And the only way you can do that is by playing games. This is what the preseason is for. Give them an opportunity to get through this preseason. Give those kids a chance to practice now with school being out. Well, it's not out yet, but when it's out, that means that all they have to do is concentrate on basketball. And I think they'll see a different product on the floor. And when you look at the Swac as a whole, we've had some good wins with in the non-conference schedule. Texas Southern has won a game. Alabama A&M has won a game. So you got people. Okay, and then I saw Jackson State twice this week. Jackson State lost their 2 games, but they were in those games. They almost led the Ole Miss game at halftime had it not been for the last 4 minutes of that first half. So you're getting good basketball in the Swac. We just have to be patient. And I think this year you got to have more patience because of the fact that they have not had their normal time with these athletes. And then when you look on the women's side, they've had some good wins. Jackson State women, they just won the other night. So Alabama A&M women have won a game. Of course, we know Pine Bluff women have won a game. And then jumping back to the men's side, I forgot about Pine Bluff and Prairie View. They all have non-conference wins under their belts. We just need to be patient, give these athletes an opportunity to know each other, to know the systems that they're playing in now, and then we'll have a better picture of what's going on in January when we get into Swac play, if all those teams are able to have their normal practice time. Because you still got teams that are being shut down for their own personal virus being affected on their team. And then you got some that can't play games because of the virus on the team, on their opponents. So all that's got to come into play. You're not playing enough games. There was no exhibition. There was nothing that would give a team an opportunity or give a coach an opportunity to find out what's on his team, because you couldn't play, you couldn't do the scrimmages, you couldn't do the exhibitions. So patience. Yeah. Patience will be a big key for the fans and for our coaches. Adaptability. You got to be able to adapt.
Well, we're getting a lot of discussion on this. Somehow I knew we would. You are the basketball analyst, expert. Jack says, if I can read this, Jack, and I appreciate Jack. He's an interesting guy. He keeps it stirred up. And he says, quit coming up with excuses for Southern. We are not talking about Southern losing games. We're talking about smart scheduling, a balance of mid-majors versus, PWR teams. But I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
That's
about
exactly what I was going to say. I mentioned that earlier, that we got to get away from thinking that the only way we can schedule games is to play the Power 5 people. I said that. And remember, I'm against that. As a coach, I don't want that. I don't want that type of pressure where I got to raise money for the university by taking my team out there for all these games, especially if it's not coming back into my program to help me have a stronger program. I said that. So either Jack missed me saying that, or he did not hear the program that day. But I'm not making an excuse from Southern. That's a fact. I'm talking from I'm talking from my heart, because I feel for these coaches that have to do this, that where their administration forces them to go out and play these games, because we're not equipped for it. We're not, because we don't have the same. The playing field is not balanced. The playing field is not balanced.
And Coach, that's why I look at, say, for example, let's say a Jackson State playing a Nicholls State. That is more of a, from a competitive standpoint, the teams are in the same parameter.
Right.
And Prairie View. almost knocking off Arkansas Little Rock. Yeah, but to your point, yeah, the scheduling's smart, and if I'm not mistaken, when I asked you point blank, how many games would you do? I think you said 4
to 5,
those types of games. Yeah, because it, and again, I understand why they do it, but then I've had people to tell me they just think that's just being lazy. When you have to bring in that, they're asking you to bring in that kind of money, and you're a coach. You're not a fundraiser.
We're correct.
So balance, scheduling, smart, and I would be willing to bet. Let's see, we could probably name a team that we could put up against playing Arkansas, playing Iowa, and the Gonzaga game was, canceled. But those 3 teams there, I would think the majority of the teams, even outside the conference, would struggle playing those 3 teams.
Well, I think the records have shown that they have struggled against them. No one has been close to Gonzaga. Iowa State, they're crushing people because of where their program is. And what's the key? They have veteran teams. These kids were in the program last year. So, and they have not changed. The coaches have not changed that much coming into this season. So they're able to get off to a better start because of continuity. And when you have teams that have a lot of new players, they're going to struggle because they've had no time to be with these kids, to incorporate these kids into your system.
Now, Coach, tell me if I'm wrong, and it's all right to, because plenty of people disagree with me. In the case of Texas Southern, they had people that were already in the program were sitting out, correct?
Yes.
So they're able to have some continuity, some chemistry. And now, if someone brings up the concern the last 2 years, let's go back, and I don't want to make it all about Southern, but last year Southern got off to a slow start. And I remember Coach Woods talking about, bringing in players, and at a certain point, they started hitting the groove, that chemistry.
Right.
Now, second year in a row, he's brought in, graduate transfers, and now you're going through the same thing. Will year 3 be different if he's able to keep, the grad transfers, I think they probably one and done.
Yeah, the grad transfers are one and done, but what I think he has done, he's gone the high school route, and he's got more high school players to come in there, which means that if they remain in the program, he's got his continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the way he felt that was the quick fix to get Southern basketball rolling again, by using the grad transfers, by using the JUCOs. But remember, the JUCOs, you've lost them after the second year. But the high school kid, you can bring them along, and that helps you keep your continuity. But most of these programs are doing transfers. Texas Southern, they made a living doing that. That's how they dominated the Swac. Mike Davis didn't want nothing but transfer, experienced guys. So if you got these guys that are playing in their 5th and 6th year, playing against a bunch of freshmen, that's a no-brainer, no contest. Because that experience is going to always outweigh that inexperience. And that's what Texas Southern has been doing over the years with Mike Davis being in there. And then if you look at what Coach is doing now, he's still using those transfers.
Mm-hmm. Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, Coach Brown Show's basketball analyst. I'm going to come back to once again getting everybody ready for the conference race, because you're going to have a few non-conference games left, and then before you know it, it'll quote unquote be time to have conference play. We talked a couple of weeks ago after the show, and you said there was a new, and the way I put it in my notes, CIT information, maybe like a new concept, a new idea, a new plan that they wanted to proceed with. Can you, at liberty to talk about that?
Yeah. College Insider with my friend Joe Dwyer. He has come up with a concept called eracism. The letter E and the word racism. And it's a thing where he wants to eradicate racism. And you got to remember now, Joe does not look like us, but he works for HBCUs. He works for the mid-majors. He works for the little guys. Prime example, he has awards named for some of our greats, Coach McGlinnan, Coach Jobe, Big House Gaines. These are national awards that are given out to players and coaches that compete on the Division I, Division II, Division III levels, okay? Now, what he has done now is come up with a project that is going to include trying to get rid of racism. And one of the things that he wants to do, or that we are going to do, because we're going to pull this off, we're going to have the coaches in each conference have a free throw shooting contest against each other. This is just one of the things that we're using to bring about, to bring attention to this. So we'll have the coaches shoot free throws at their own respective schools, and then, of course, you take the percentages, and the coaches will get a chance to advance, and then you'll have a winner from each conference. Then the other thing that he's going to do, that he is going to continue to do, he's putting more emphasis on his the games at the end of the season, like the John McGlennon Classic. That's going to that concept will remain. He's going to be putting more emphasis in it. They're trying to put more money. The game has been televised for the last couple of years. So Joe is just doing things to bring about awareness of the lack of racism, or racism in America and racism in athletics, because it's still there. Prime example from yesterday, the students at Utah State, football players, they're boycotting the last game. Why? Because their president allegedly told them that their interim coach was not a candidate because of his race and his religion. I'm sorry, not race, religion. More about his religion. So they're boycotting. And these are the kind of things that Joe has seen through the years, and that's part of the reason why he started the CIT, because he does invite historically black colleges to have an option. If you don't make the NC2A tournament, you don't make the NIT, then there's another option. You can continue to play in the CIT. And he's helped Alabama State, Grambling State, Jackson State, Texas Southern. All of these teams have had an opportunity to participate in postseason play. And that's great for these athletes. It's great for these schools, for them to have an opportunity for postseason play.
So you see, and you're absolutely right, the CIT tournament getting better, having more of an emphasis, and in light of, you look at the transfer portal, you see in football, not as much in basketball, but I'm sure it's there. I mean, that's been recognized. And what's been going on in the country, you see all of that kind of pointing to more emphasis on those type of tournaments and us controlling more of what we need to do.
Right, and I think it is great. And then a thing that I failed at this, but I always wanted it. I wanted a Swac MEAC challenge in basketball. It should have been a preseason tournament where we're playing like schools. We don't have to play the Power Fives. Let's cross over and play each other at one site, and let's rotate it between the MEAC and the Swac. And that's one of the things that I fought for. I worked on it, and I had a couple people, helping me with it, but we weren't able to pull it off. And I would love to see that. They do it in football, so there's no reason why we shouldn't try to do it in basketball.
Well, we'll continue to monitor all of the situations and give you the information on that. Thanks for that information on the CIT, Coach Pettaway. As December the 12th, getting closer to conference play, and then when the conference starts, everyone's kind of familiar with each other, wouldn't you say? So, with that being said, we still have the preseason predictions, and I understand what you're saying earlier. It's kind of too early to rate people, but with that being said, you still believe that this is going to be a very, very competitive race on both men and the women's side. You believe that? I'm sure.
I do. I think it's going to be very competitive. I think the teams that we've talked about being at the top for both the men and women, they are showcasing themselves. The only team that has jumped up there that was not talked about a lot was Arkansas Pine Bluff women. They were not talked about a lot, but they've already have a great win under their belt, and I think that's because they got one of the better players in the league on the team, the young lady that transferred from Texas Southern. So you got to look at that, and then of course the Pine Bluff men say don't leave us out. They were able to pick up a good win too. So I think the balance. Now I'm gonna tell you one of the teams that I think is going to struggle now, and I said this before, Alabama State, because they have a new coach, a new system. They have not played a game and will not play a game until conference schedule. That could go against them. That could really go against them because they have not played outside competition.
Unless Coach,
they should have the system down now. Coach, that's Coach Williams. They should have the system down now because they got nothing to do but practice. But we don't know if the virus has caused them to pause or not. So that's one thing that I'm looking for. How will Alabama State come out the gate? Because of them being one of the only schools that has not played a game.
And also, I mentioned and now in light of what you said earlier, and maybe we'll come up with a top 5, I guess, or we'll see who's trending up, who's trending down in the conference. And in lieu of what you said about it's too early to give out stars and rankings, what do you think? It was a lot of social media chatter with Alabama A&M, and I believe they've only played one game on the men's side, correct?
Correct.
Number one, I've seen in some polls. What do you think about that?
Well, that's only because the way the polls are set up, if you win a game, it's going to automatically put you in first place if the other teams in your league got losses.
Well,
so that's only one
Coach,
game.
But Coach, what did the opponent have something to do with it? Because it was.
Well, Samford is a good. That was a good win for Alabama A&M, but I don't think Samford was ranked too high in their own conference. But it's a great win. It's a great in-state win for Alabama A&M, and that's just the nature of the beast. They've only played that one game. Their second game was canceled their next game against Ohio State was canceled. Then I think since then they've had one other game because they have the virus. And then that's big because that team was in Ohio getting ready for that game the day before and found out that they could not participate because of the virus. So it's the polls, I think they're not the polls, but the way the standings are set up, they just count the wins. And this whole thing will balance out once they start conference play.
Now,
having them in first place is because they don't have a loss, but they've only played one game.
Now,
so that's how you look at that.
Right. But what it does show, I think you kind of hit on it. That's an in-state school, right? Like UAPB, women and men against Arkansas State. I think that you're almost going to weigh that a little bit more.
Yeah,
because it's in-state, and again, it's not like a Group of 5 or a Power 5 team.
Right. And see, those are the type of games we should be playing more of those type games. Like I think at Alabama A&M, the men have South Alabama scheduled to come in sometime later this month. See, that program is closer to the budget that A&M has than them going to Ohio State.
Yeah.
So see, they have a balance in their schedule. So you look at Sanford, you look at Southern. You look at Southern again. Now Southern's supposed to be playing UAB. That's a step up for Southern, but it should be a closer game than an Iowa game, because UAB is part of the Sun Belt. That's not Power 5. But I'm gonna be honest now. Andy Kennedy got them kids rolling down there at UAB, because I know Andy was at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, and then Cincinnati, and he's a Huggy. He's a clone from Bob Huggins. So he's gonna have them kids ready to play. That was one of the games I had that I was gonna see in person. I was gonna see that game in person when Southern came to Alabama, because Birmingham is only an hour and 20 minutes from me, and I was going to see that game in person. But I'm one of the people that's still mentally having problems with the virus. The virus has affected me mentally. I'm skeptical about going out. I have not been out. This is the first time in close to 40 years I've not seen a high school game. I'm a coach. I'm a coach by heart. I did it all my life.
Yeah.
I have not stepped foot in a gym for high school, college, or NBA for the first time in my life. And December, we're midway through December. Yeah. And so the virus, it may not, you may not have the virus, but the virus can still affect you. And it has affected me. So I don't see people in person. I have not. And as a coach, to evaluate, it's a good thing to see teams in person. And I was really looking forward to seeing Southern and Alcorn, because they both were going to play at UAB. But I have not been able to do that, and I don't see myself getting out there to see that game next week.
Yeah, well, they're and I made in my notes about mental health, and not enough is talked about that during this pandemic. And to your point, Coach, I was in the hospital for just about a week. Mm-hmm. And, that thought crossed my mind, with COVID, but I was isolated, and just those frontline workers, nurses and doctors, outstanding job. And
right, yeah,
they mask up, and you're isolated. But that thought did cross my mind, and that's kind of what happens. When you said about from a mental perspective, you just have to kind of concentrate. But it's all right to feel that way.
Right, I think it is, Carlos. And see, Carlos, that from a coaching standpoint, that's why I think our fans and our administrators, they have to be more patient this year more than ever because of the virus. Because now you still got to think about the mental health of these athletes and the coaches.
Yeah,
that are trying to play during this pandemic. Then at the same time, they got to be worried about the administration and alumni and their job security. That's a lot on the coach, man. And I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I was active now, I'm not sure if I'd be handling this right, because that's a lot of pressure. First of all, there's pressure. Even if we were not in the pandemic, these coaches have pressure that they put on themselves because they want to be the best coaches and have the best team that they can have. And now you cannot control what happens with your team because of the virus. And now I got to think about if I'm going to be able to put food on the table for my family, because the alumni and administration, they're not pressing pause. They're moving forward. And I just think that's just so unfair. That's the coach coming out in me. That's the humanity coming out in me. I feel for these guys and these ladies who are out there who have to make their living through coaching and going through this virus. My hat's off to them. This is where instead of firing them, they should be getting bonuses for going through this process.
Well, yeah, people need resources, but I don't want to turn it into a political show. But if I had a political show, it'd be called A Different Perspective, and then we can tear into some people, but you try to have open and honest dialogue.
Right.
And sometimes you'll agree, sometimes you'll agree to disagree. But I guess you have to put a pause sometimes. So this spring season, football, basketball, baseball, if it is to happen. But you know what? I've come to the realization if the science says it's not a good idea to do it,
right? Don't do it.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
Because it seems like there is sunlight on the horizon.
Oh yes.
And that's how you kind of look at it that way. So with that being said, appreciate the time,
sure,
Coach, and the conversation. And it's good to be back.
Okay, and we're happy to have you back, and God bless all of you, man, and everybody stay safe.
Stay safe. Thanks a lot, Coach. That was Coach Van Tettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. I'm going to take a time out. Then I'm going to come back with Rod Walker, the guy who's just so smooth. Doesn't get excited. Let's see if I can get him excited this time. Maybe we'll see what his top 5 NFL teams. Of course, my favorite team. And once again, I've got to continue to eat crow. If you tuned in about 4 weeks ago, oh boy, I don't think the Saints they're worse. Whatever their record was at the time, I think it was 5-2 or 4-2. 5-2, yeah. Dr. Prince, you will remember that. I tell you. And since then they've had Drew Brees go down with an injury, and they've been able. Do you know this? In the last 2 years, and I hope I haven't given them the kiss of death. Their backup, they're undefeated with a backup quarterback until the starter comes back. Pittsburgh finally lost. I say it's a good thing. Dr. Prince probably wouldn't agree with that, but okay, he agrees with me. Oh boy, there's a God somewhere, and then we'll talk with Charles Edmond following Roy Walker. So more of the Carlos Brown Show coming up after this quick timeout.
The station designed with you in mind. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most. like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the Swac Alumni Association. The Swac Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at Swac universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the Swac Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to Swac Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swacaluminaassociation@yahoo.com.
Can You Feel It by Southern University's Human Digital Jukebox. I always put digital in there. They are full sounding band. And Can You Feel It? Yeah, Can You Feel It? I have to eat crow. And my next guest is going to help me eat crow, although he's just such a nice guy. He probably won't force it down my throat, but I know others would take that opportunity. Rod Walker joins me as a New Orleans advocate. Rod, good morning to you. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Rod. You relaxing, huh?
Hey, I'm gonna cut you some slack, man.
Oh, see, yeah, you're a nice guy, because some people would really let me have it for that. No, I understood. Yeah. Well, let's set the scenario. I was disgusted, frustrated. The Saints just were not looking the way I thought they should, and I called them the worst. What was it, Dr. Prince? Worst 5-2 team that I've seen. Now we fast forward to now, Rod, injury with Drew Brees. Now this team is just on a tremendous winning streak. Talk about that. That's a good feat so far.
Yeah, it's been a pretty incredible run, and we talk about Taysom, and we'll get to him, I'm sure. But I mean, it all goes to the defense, man. I mean, they've given up 2 touchdowns total in the past 5 games, and they kind of carried this team, and the offense has done, they've done enough to win, and so I mean, I think credit to Sean Payton for being able to. For what he's done these past 2 seasons. I mean, when Brees goes down and there's some concern, and this team just keeps on moving. And it hasn't just been Brees. I mean, Michael Thomas missed a couple of games. Emmanuel Sanders missed games. Tareem Armstead missed the past 2 weeks. I mean, the list just goes on and on, man. This team they just built so much depth that it doesn't matter who goes down. They lost Marshawn Lattimore, who was a guy who I thought this team was I always say if they lose Marshawn, man, they're in trouble. They lost Marshawn and beat the Falcons. So, I mean, they just find a way to get it done, man. And that says a lot about this team. So you got to give them credit for it.
What's the latest on Drew Brees? Before we came back from the break, we were having a discussion, and so what's the latest on Drew Brees? Then I'll follow up with another question.
Well, they put him on injured reserve, which meant 3 games. He'd be out at least 3 games under the new injured reserve rule. So he's missed his 3 games. So technically, he could come back and play, against the Eagles. But he didn't practice this week. So I mean, you just assume that they're going to rest him up for at least one more week, and maybe he comes back next week against Kansas City, which is a huge game for this team. And so yeah, I mean it's. You look at that Kansas City defense with Chris Jones and those guys up front, and like, man, do you want to put Brees out there in that game? And I was even saying the same thing this week. Like, I don't know if you want Fletcher Cox chasing Drew Brees around and landing on top of him. So, I just think you need to. I think you got to hold him out as long as you can. But we're getting to the end of the regular season, so you'll have we got Minnesota and Carolina after the Chiefs game. So I mean, there's not a whole lot of time. So I mean, you do want to get him in there for some games in before the playoffs start. So you have to bring him back at some point if he's going to be the guy you're riding with. And we talk about Taysom and how well he's done. I don't know how comfortable people are right now with. If Taysom was your quarterback going to the playoffs, are you comfortable or are you kind of kind of nervous? So. I think at some point you do have to get Brees in there, but I just wouldn't rush him back. So maybe if it's me, I'm probably waiting for those last 2 games, the Vikings and the Panthers. But
bingo, bingo. That's what I was just thinking. The last 2, young and
but I know how Brees. Yeah, but we know how Brees is, man. If he thinks he can go, if Brees thinks he can go today, he'll be playing tomorrow against the Eagles. I mean, it's just kind of how he's just wired that way. And again, we saw last season he came back a game earlier than we thought. We all thought that, and I can't remember who. I think it was Arizona, maybe. But anyway, he came back a game, and they had a bye week the following week. And most of us were saying, okay, you hold Brees out, then he gets an extra week with the bye and come back for the Falcons. And I think it was the Falcons, but I can't remember, but he came back earlier than we thought he would. And I think he'll do the same this time. He'll come back as soon as the doctor says it's okay. I think Brees will be back playing.
Well,
so
they've been
a matter of that's going to be.
But my gut tells me that you bring him back after that Kansas City game, because I mean you don't want to say he's going to be an experienced pro like him rusty, but there will be a timing situation, albeit maybe just a little bit, because we're talking about Drew Brees, but just from a health standpoint, because to be honest, they've had very good seasons, but in the last couple of seasons, not been successful in the playoffs. So I kind of want them at peak performance. So that's why I would hold them out. But again, the competitiveness of Drew Brees, he may want to come back as soon as possible. With that being said, Ron, you had some injuries along the offensive line, namely Armstead. How is his injury progressing?
Well, he's back, man. He actually missed the last 2 games because of COVID. He tested positive, and he missed those. I guess the quarantine was 10 days, so he's missed his 2 games. We actually talked to him yesterday, and he talked about how he tested positive and actually had it, lost his sense of smell, lost his sense of taste, and he said it was pretty rough, but he's back now and he's good to go, and I think he'll be fine tomorrow. I mean, and credit to the guys who filled in for him. James Hurst played well, but now Teron's back, and so he got past the COVID. So I mean, it's good for him. It's good to see that for him.
And that's been a fight that, of course, a lot of people have been dealing with. tomorrow. They're on the road at Philadelphia. Historically, that's always been a tough place for the Saints, but they've had some success. What are some of your early keys for the Saints tomorrow against Philadelphia?
I think one of the things is controlling Philadelphia's front four. They do a really good job of putting pressure on the quarterback, and that's something that Sean Payton sort of talked about all week, is how they don't have to bring 5 and 6 guys. They put pressure on the quarterback with just 4 guys. So protecting Taysom Hill is going to be really important, and he's going to have to get rid of the ball earlier than he probably has in his first 3 starts. So to me, that's going to be the biggest key. Obviously, the Eagles are starting they named Jalen Hurts, the rookie that played at Alabama and Oklahoma. They named him their starting quarterback this week, and because Carson Wentz just wasn't really getting it done. He's been sacked like 50 times and hadn't done much, and so they're hoping. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know it's I know it's the most in the league, and that's not his fault. I mean, that's the Lions' fault, and the Saints are probably going to try to take advantage of that. And I mean, Saints have had some games where they get a lot of sacks too, but I think just Jalen Hurts is first time ever starting, so pretty tough task to be asked to start against the defense that's ranked number 1 in the league right now in in total yards allowed per game. So could be a tough outing for Jalen Hurts. I mean, I don't know how well he'll do. He might go in there and light it up. I mean, you just never know. We saw some signs of his talents in college. I mean, he's obviously a pretty good player. So to me, the key for the Saints is going to be, you just got to take care of the ball and can't put the defense in bad positions and give Philadelphia a short field, because I don't think Philadelphia can just drive up and down the field on them. But Taysom has to take care of the ball. He can't be fumbling like he's done a lot this season. He fumbled last week against Atlanta twice. One of them ended up hurting the Saints, and the other one could have lost the game if the ball hadn't rolled out of bounds. So he definitely had to take care of the ball.
Yeah, boy, if you had blood pressure issues, heart problems, you had to take your heart medicine last week, because sitting there, and it's like, it was a comfortable game, if I can use that term. Some may disagree. And then, just like in the twinkling of an eye, you could see how quickly this could get away. And you're sitting at the TV, oh no.
Right.
And it was that close.
And even the Hail Mary at the end of the game, I mean, it was pretty close, and Atlanta probably could have, they could have made a play if I think Julio or Ridley, one of them fell down on the Hail Mary. But, I mean, I know the Hail Mary, the chances of them working aren't great, but it came down to that, which is crazy considering how the Saints had dominated the game for most of the game until Taysom's first fumble. It just sort of turned the tide.
You're absolutely right. I'm visiting with Rod Walker, the New Orleans Advocate. Now, Rod, you ready to get put on the spot a little bit? And I'm not going to ask you about Jackson State, okay? You let that one out of the bag. But your top 5 teams in the NFL, as you see it, the Rod Walker list.
Top 5. I'm probably going. You want AFC and NFC, right? Just the top 5 period, right?
Oh, it could be top 5 period.
Yeah. I put Kansas City 1. Kansas City 1. Man, I'm debating between the Saints and the Rams.
Music. Ding, ding, ding.
I put the Saints 2. Putting the Rams 3. I'm not Green Bay. I got Green Bay now. No, I'm putting the Rams. I think the Rams defense is playing really well. I'm putting the Rams 3, Green Bay 4.
Oh, you're going NFC, right?
No, I mean I put Kansas City 1. I put Kansas City 1. I'm going off. I'm putting the Steelers at. I put the Steelers 5, I guess. You noticed, I don't know if you noticed, but the Steelers that's not actually my team, and I probably wanted to put them a little higher, but I'm trying to be as objective.
Wait a minute, I leave off? Your team's the Steelers? Wow.
Yeah, I don't
tell you, there's a lot of Steelers fans in Louisiana. I'm trying to think top 5 then out of it.
Let me see if I need to put the Steelers up a little bit higher. I'm definitely putting Kansas City. Kansas City Saints. I might go. Hey, let me put Steelers third, Rams fourth, and Green Bay fifth. How about that? There we go.
I could live with that. You know, I'm not a controversial guy, and I'm not emotional. But it's it's not. It's objective.
Give me your top five. Give me your top five. Give me your top five. Let me hear who you got.
Kansas City.
Okay, we'll agree on that one.
Saints 2, Pittsburgh 3.
That's my top three right there. Okay.
I really believe that I would put Seattle and Green Bay.
Okay, you put Seattle above the Rams.
I'm not impressed with the Rams. Man, their defense is pretty good, but
no, I get
you can't say I favor the NFC. Okay. But
and I think Buffalo's actually pretty good. I think they're gonna get. No, Buffalo's like if Buffalo beats the Steelers this week, I'll switch it up and move them to. Well, I hope you're right, but I wouldn't be shocked.
That's why when you have the top five, somebody's gonna get squeezed out of there. Now, the only thing that I could probably go back and switch and maybe, but no, Pittsburgh. And me and Dr. Prince discussed this, and my best friend. They got to get a consistent running game. And believe it or not, the Saints have been running the ball pretty decent with the defense.
They rushed for 200 yards. They rushed for 200 yards the past 2 weeks, so that says a lot. And I'm probably a little biased against the Steelers because of how they looked the past 2 games. They didn't play well against the Ravens, and they didn't play well, obviously, against Washington the other night. So.
Yeah, but Dr. Prince, you coming in? You can look at the body of work that Pittsburgh has done, and they're in a discussion of the top 3.
Okay, gentlemen. You guys, y'all killing me back here, man. Y'all killing me.
That's because you're an emotional guy.
I might be slightly emotional, but no more emotional than you are.
And can you be objective?
Of course, I'm always objective.
See, I'm objective.
I'm always objective. Here's the objective facts. 2 major facts, and they might sound like excuses to those, but the facts are the facts. The Steelers have not had a chance to address their running issues because their original bye week was interrupted with the COVID concerns dealing with the Titans, and they hadn't had the chance. So everything has been thrown off, and we're forgetting that this is the only team in the league that has played 3 games in 12 days. And that is a tall order, guys. And they hadn't had a chance. And so they're going to be all right. And as soon as you're going to have to tweak it, they've had to go with what's been successful for them, and that's been the short passing game. But as soon as they get a chance to fine-tune the running game, it's going to be all right.
I like how you say fine-tune. I think it's been a lack of it.
Well, that's why you have to fine-tune it.
Okay. Get one. Okay, we'll just but let
me say this about the Saints right
Go
quick.
ahead.
I got the Saints too, and it's because they won all these games in a row. But if you want to really be objective about the Saints and their schedule, the Saints have only beat 1 team all season that currently has a winning record, and that's Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they beat them twice. But I mean that's the only team they beat.
And Tampa shaky.
The teams they beat with a win, the other teams they played to have a winning record, Green Bay, they lost to them. I'm not even sure if the Raiders are. I don't know if the Raiders are 6-6 or I don't know what their record is right now. But they also lost to the Raiders, who had a winning record. They're right at 500. But I mean, the Saints' schedule hasn't been as daunting as people try to make it. I mean, it's like they haven't just beat some great teams. So I mean, I think people do need to take that into consideration. And I don't think we'll really know how good this Saints team is really until they play Kansas City next week. I think that's when we'll be able to gauge this team a little better. In Philadelphia, I think they're 3-8-1. They're 3-8-1. But I think Philadelphia could be a decent test. I don't know, but next week we'll definitely know how good if the Saints team is for real or not.
Michael says, as a Steeler fan, Rod is giving the Steelers no love, and he has the crying laugh emoji.
I feel you all the way on that one, Mike. I was over here in the background killing myself.
I moved him up to 3. Y'all check. I mean, y'all were right. I moved him up to 3. I don't know how you put him any higher than that.
No, you don't put him. You don't put him any higher. You can't put him any higher.
But the challenge will be, because often how I talk about the Saints and Sean Payton and pulling my hair out, which I don't have any, getting away from the running game, and then in the playoffs, you're gonna have to be able to run the football, because the tempo it just changes. And if a team and I understand your point, Dr. Prince, the short passing attack is like a running game in a way, but I think that's the challenge for Pittsburgh. If they can establish some kind of running game to complement the passing.
Well, not only complement the passing, but help control and eat up clock. But
yeah, that too.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the glass half full versus half empty. And they just need some time to get it right. They can talk about it, but till you actually go through the blocking schemes and assignments, you just look at it, man. These guys have been blowing and going. You got set back 3 times to play the Ravens. You play Washington on a short schedule. Then you coming back to play Buffalo, who I think should have been in one of the top 5s. But y'all do what y'all do.
Who are you taking out?
Who am I taking
Whenever
out?
you put somebody in, you got to take somebody out.
My top 5 would have been Kansas City, and I would put the Saints. I would then put the Rams, the Steelers, then the Bills.
Well, so you got the Steelers lower.
That's a pretty good one.
But I'm basing it on what the team's looking. Buffalo loses to the Steelers this weekend, then you flip that. But you got to give credit to Buffalo for how they've been performing thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my situation, Buffalo is kind of like you got to prove it to me. Oh, I've got a good record. I've beaten some good teams. Yeah, but son, you still have to show me. Give me this week would be a good quality win. How about that?
A quality win for sure. And I also say this is going to be a statement game. This is the statement game for the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pittsburgh and New Orleans. Oh, if that could be for all the marbles. Well, somebody in black and gold will be the champion. Get it? But Pittsburgh has to go through the juggernaut in Kansas City with the Saints. Rod, remember what I said? And I still stand by it. They're very good. I almost say outstanding. I might could use great. Regular season team, but they're just average in the playoffs. So the Saints' biggest opponent, I should use that word, is themselves. What do you think about that, Rod?
I think that's fair. I mean, based on what we've seen the past 3 years now. I mean, that's and sometimes I don't know how much you count the Rams game, but I mean, they still had their chances. I mean, you can't. I know you kind of blame it on that one call, but I mean.
Thank you, Rod. 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 It was more than just that one call. Thank you, Rod.
Yeah, so.
But it was a call and a bad one.
Now who's emotional? Who's emotional?
No doubt of that.
Oh, you're darn right I'm emotional. I'm trying to calm down. I never said I wouldn't, but anyway.
Hey, Rod, real quickly, man, is Jameis Winston considered a flop?
No, I don't think so. I think with Jameis, man, I think he came in obviously at a disadvantage because there was no off season. So I think he probably was a little behind, and I think Taysom, had a better grasp of the offense, and Sean talked earlier this week. He was on some radio station talking about it, but I think they still like Jameis, so I don't think I wouldn't call him a flop at all. I just think he just kind of had a disadvantage just because he didn't get in here and didn't get to learn the offense. And Tayful's been in his offense 4 years now. So I mean, it just he just knew the offense better, I feel like. And then he came in and played pretty well, I think. And so I don't know.
Well, I still say, just my opinion, not facts, that hopefully at the end of the season, and if Drew Brees retires, which I'm kind of leaning toward that, then hopefully he'll have an opportunity to compete for a starting position at quarterback. Yeah. And if not, one of the things, he did come with some people questioning, but I think he's been, and you could tell me better than anyone, Rod, he's been a model teammate. He's done well, and I think he'll get an excellent opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah, I think he will. I definitely think he will. And to be fair, I think especially the way the Saints defense is playing, if Jameis had started these past 3 games instead of Taysom, I still think the Saints I think they would win all 3 of those games. So it's almost kind of, and our whole conversation right now we'd be talking about Jameis and, how good he is and, the future of this team. So, it's just it's actually a credit to Sean Payton for being able to just plug in anybody, and you don't even have to worry about the quarterback position because, that was always a concern. And so, Jameis, we'd be talking about Jameis right now. He'd be 3-0, and everybody in the country would be talking about the future of Jameis Winston. Like, is he going to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees, or will somebody else sign him? He'd be set up pretty good right now. So, well, you kind of hope he gets that opportunity because Teddy got his chance to play, and you kind of feel bad that Jameis isn't getting that opportunity. So, but that's the way it worked out for him.
We'll see. Well, Rod, I appreciate the insight and the time, and as long as I can get Coach Payton to, he's a gambler at times, but boy, third and 1, wow, run the ball sometimes. But he drives me mad sometimes. But when it works, you love him. You love it. When it doesn't,
right.
You're cursing at the TV. So that's Sean Payton for you. Rod, have a great weekend. And next time we talk,
y'all too, man.
Maybe we'll add a little Pelicans. NBA is
it's here.
About to start back up. It seems so quick.
It does, man. They just finished in October, and here they are starting back up. So, yeah.
Yeah, I worry about injuries and what have you. But have a great weekend, my man.
All right, y'all too, man.
All righty. That was Rod Walker, the New Orleans Advocate. Going to take a time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Tall Man Radio. Charles Edmond. Check on him. See how everything is going. Get his insight on things in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Have sports, we'll travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network serving student athletes from Little League, high school, and collegiate coverage right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. From coast to coast, from dusk till dawn. You can catch all student athletic action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the station designed with you in mind. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the voice of student athletics.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now.
You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Yes, it feels good to be back when you have people checking in on you. I'm not going to use the whole name, but Michael, he says, hey, franchise, the Saints are overrated. Their competition hasn't been great. Michael, I could have taken a shot at your team, and guess what? I love you to death. You've been a great friend. You really have been. But I don't want to be like Stephen A. Smith and get on the but you know what? I like the Cowboys when they're full strength, and then when the Saints get that W on them, then it's good. But that was not in the conversation this year. Oh, it feels good to be back. Thank you, Michael. That got the blood pumping a little bit better. Hey, franchise, the Saints are overrated. Their competition hasn't been great now. But Rod Walker did say only one team that they had a win against, I believe, that has a good record. Speaking of records, our next guest, he has a record. He's a Ram fan who, in our last segment, didn't get a lot of love, well, at least I think from Dr. Prince. But Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great now, and I feel completed. Oh, I feel like I'm touching another side. I feel completed. The people are disagreeing with me a little bit. They're showing me some love. Isn't that what the world is about? It is now, a little love, a little like, a little disagreement. makes for a good day.
Well,
there you go,
Carlos. Saturday mornings, Saturday mid to late mornings wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the Carlos Brown Show.
Well, you know, I of course, I said it earlier, I had a health crisis, and hey, I'm back. It wasn't my time yet, and it could have went to the other direction. If you waited a few more days for another week, hey, so I thank the Creator. I really do, and and I thank all my friends. I thank the prayers, the kind words, best friend, everybody. It feels good to be back.
It's good for you to be back, and I'm glad you're back. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Now, I can't wait till you see me the next time. Hopefully, you'll be shocked. We'll just see, though, one day at a time. One day at a time. So, with that being said, I brought up your name earlier in the show because, we exchanged text messages and talking about the capacity at some of the basketball games and, prayed for you when you're on the road doing some basketball games. But you talked about the state of Mississippi and even including Alcorn. When you have some basketball games, it's going to be 10% capacity, and then like the lower bowl of the arena, and I've seen that on games I've watched on television. There's no seating there. It's just kind of like midways or at the top of the arena. Could you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, we were supposed to have. I'm on this game day operations committee, where it's game day for football or basketball. And we were supposed to have a meeting on Thursday, but I got a little inside information prior to the meeting. Our governor, early in the week, our Governor Tate Reeves, came up with new guidance this week that 10% capacity at basketball arenas. And that goes through January 21st of 2021. So that would include the first 2 Swac games that we have at home, Texas Southern Prairie View. So we're looking at, anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people for maximum capacity at basketball games. And the lower section will be closed off. They'll push the lower seats in so everybody would sit in the upper deck, the upper levels. And that's to spread everybody out, including, broadcasters, scores table, official scores, PA announcer. And that's a good thing. I've seen that on television at other places that I've been. I haven't necessarily seen that. I've seen the plexiglass. I actually dealt with the plexiglass protection at Wichita State. At UAB, where I went the first game, they required face shields for everyone at the scores table. You sat in your normal spot. So it's different places, different agendas. I read on social media the other day, another school in the conference, I think, I want to say Alabama State, I might be wrong. I think Alabama State's going to have the same thing in terms of they're going to push the lower deck in where people will be sitting higher up and spreading people out. So it's just, hey, every place is different. We're in a new normal. Everybody's trying to do the best they can to keep people safe, and every plan is different, and you have to adjust on the fly. That's just the way things are right now, and that's where we stand right now. I mean, in another couple of weeks, our governor might, extend it or, even toughen the restrictions. We're seeing that all over the country. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, our basketball team on schedule is supposed to play Santa Clara after Christmas, but I was talking with Santa Clara folks this week. Of course, California has really tightened things up in their state, and they're talking about playing the game in Santa Cruz, which is 50 miles away from Santa Clara. We're flying to San Jose, and their campus is not too far from the airport, but Santa Cruz is like 50 miles away, and it's a possibility we might be playing there instead of in Santa Clara. So every place is different. I don't know what's gonna be like at Southern. Will they have the lower bowl? Will they have the lower bowl closed off? But every place is different. Just trying to spread everybody out, which is the important thing. Limit capacity and keep everybody safe.
Yeah, and I think, Joe, that will be the norm that you will see. I know every arena is not, modeled the same. Like, to me, Alabama State arena and the FG Clark are similar to me. Also, the Baby Dome, I think that's what they call it, Prairie View. I think you wouldn't have a problem there. In other words, I think you'll see that similar plan throughout the conference. And I know the other day I got an email from Alabama State about explaining how they're going to do the credentials, and they're kind of banning, or having a limited media present at the basketball games as well.
Well, I'll share this. Our girls' team played Ole Miss the other night, and I was prepared, almost packed and ready to go to Oxford. And I talked with their people, and they said no visiting radio.
Wow.
And so that's, I don't know if that's SEC protocol. I don't know if that's going to be the case at LSU, but we'll see if that sticks for SEC. But could not go to Ole Miss to do their games. They did not allow visiting radio, so we picked up their feed and just kind of went with it. But again, that's just another adjustment you have to make. We don't have much. We have 3.5 weeks before we start, or 3 weeks before we start conference play. But that's just what I've dealt with at a number of games. Even our Wichita State game, Carlos, and all the games that I've done, I've never done a game with no fans. They had no fans in the arena at Wichita State. It's a weird feeling to do a game with 0 fans and just manufactured crowd noise and all that. It's just what you see on TV, and then being in the arena is totally different.
Well, and I don't know how this could be accomplished, but I've seen some games where they're actually not at the arena and they're broadcasting, but then I think you would have to use technology and I guess they were at their office or at home broadcasting the game, but that might be a stretch in the conference, wouldn't you say?
It is doable. It is doable. Yeah, I mean, you have to keep in mind the concept that you're doing. Because I was going to actually.
Radio is a little bit different, of course.
Correct.
Than television.
Right. That's the first thing. And I've talked with, and I've emailed on Facebook and other people that I know in the business that have tried to do the same thing. And, one guy said, look, you need to taper down your expectations of it because the feed that you get, there's delays, there's dropouts, and even, I don't know if you follow some of the feed on ESPN, announcers that are doing games from their homes, because you can actually do it from your house with a good internet connection and 2 or 3 big monitors. If the internet drops out, you have no video. You can't see what's going on. So you're in the blind. And if there's someone on site, like what we had for the CBS game the other day, even though the announcer, I think it was the ESPN game in which the feed went out and the announcer or the sideline person did the game from there. But when that happens, that's a tough deal. And so I was going to look at doing the Ole Miss game, remotely. I see how it's done, but it's just a matter of getting a strong internet connection, because if you don't and the video drops out, you're calling the game blind, you're looking at live stats. I think Dr. Prince did something on the high school level with that, because him and I were talking not too long ago about that. And it's just some concepts that we're kicking around. It's doable. It does require some coordination and cooperation from the other school to provide you a video feed of what you need, or even audio. Because all I would really need would be, crowd noise and a TA guy calling the buckets. And I can actually look at a video feed from my office at home and actually call the game that way. I mean, it's doable, but it requires a lot of song and dance and coordination.
Charles, we'll get together and I'll
go smoothly.
Lay out what I did and how it's done. But you can do it, man. You are the king.
Yeah, he is the king. Edwin says, and appreciate you listening in, Edwin. He said, pleasant good morning, sir. Great hearing you this morning. Thank you, sir. And his question is, with the 10%, are there any regulations on seating with a minimum of 6 feet distancing between groups of people sitting together, Charles?
I did read it. There is an email out about that. I think families of 4 can sit together. But I think other than that, I think they're going to try to spread everybody out.
I think spreading out minus family, husband, wife, father, son, father, daughter, you get the drift. Yeah. It will be best to practice the distance. It is just a unique year, and you said it best. You got to adjust, adapt. And speaking of that, we've kind of been talking on today's show about non-conference, tough for some, quality wins, but it's not going to be a usual 12, 13 non-conference games. You're going to have a few, and then you're going to get right into the conference schedule. Are you impressed, like others who have come on today's show, talking about some of those good quality wins, particularly UAPB on the women's side and the men's side, defeating their in-state rival?
Yeah, I am. I think, few can be good in some cases, and I think, there's some teams that are playing a handful of games, like our women's team's only playing 4. Our men's team's only play 1 game, and Alabama State's not playing at all until January. But the games that have been played, I am impressed, and I think that is helping our teams. I mean, I think that the limited number of reps by some of these Power 5 schools, even Coach K complained, Mike Krzyzewski complained that we should pause basketball. Of course, a lot of people feel like because he's 0-2, that's why he would say that. But I get it. I get both sides of it. I get the fan side of it, and I get Coach K's side of it. But nonetheless, I am impressed with what we're doing so far. Don Brown with an impressive win. Georgia Ivory, getting a win out of conference and their in-state rival, Texas Southern, coming back from 19 down to beat Wyoming. Grambling's women's team beating up on ULM. I think it's a good sign. I think what it means to me is that 2.5 weeks before we crank up conference, I think 3 weeks from today, if I'm not mistaken, we crank it up January 2nd. I think it's going to be a dogfight on both sides because, here's the other thing. In this COVID-19 environment, we've seen a ton of basketball games get canceled. And I spoke with the assistant AD of the conference, Dr. Jason Cable, and there is a threshold. You have to play, in order to qualify for the NCAA tournament, you have to play at least 13 regular season games. 13 is the number. Anything less than that, and you wouldn't be eligible for the NCAA tournament if you wanted, or even the postseason. So now you've got a school like Bama State. They're not playing anything in non-conference, so now they're at an 18-game number. And let's hope that they get those 18 in. I mean, we've seen cancellations already. We've had 6 games canceled. Our men's team had 6 games canceled. We hope, right now we're in quarantine. We're supposed to crank it back up at practice tomorrow. But these are some of the things that, you're going to have to deal with. And I do think it's going to lead to some upsets. It's going to lead to some teams, maybe knocking off a Texas Southern that's playing really well right now. They're always going to get you a couple of good wins in non-conference. Whether Mike Davis was the coach of Johnny Jones, Prairie View's had some. They've had to pause their program a little bit. We have, so it's going to be a tough deal. But I do think the wins that we get for the games that we do play, if those are quality wins, in-state opponents, I think we'll take those and we just build on those for conference.
Well, if things go well, Southern Alcorn travel partners. They're going to be tested right out the chute. Prairie View and Texas Southern, back-to-back games. Same thing for Southern University. Charles, we kind of got a question here now, and Michael says now, is Southern University and Alcorn a rivalry in football? Wow, I could go several ways with that. I could go off. But I'm going to say this. A rivalry is back and forth, correct? You win some, you lose some.
Yep.
It doesn't have, in my opinion, the heat, the fullness, the passion, like playing at Jackson State. But because of the last 12 or 13 games, a very poor record against Alcorn, technically it's not a rivalry.
10 out of 11, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be calm now. But technically, it's not a rivalry because to me, my definition of rivalry is an intense competition, back and forth. So I'm going to say technically it's not because Alcorn has owned them. But
right.
For the emotional part, you still, you know me, play them twice on Sunday because you're just competitive. But go ahead, you answer.
I think starting in 2021, it'll be probably more of a rivalry than it's been because Alcorn's moving to the West. And I think you have to look at that. I think Alcorn and Southern, from my perch, dealing with Alcorn Southern rivalry for all these years, I think to me, it's the second biggest rivalry we've got. What the number one is, Jackson State. No matter what the record's at, no matter what our record or JSU's record, it'll always be Alcorn Jackson State, above anything else. But I think clearly Southern University is a solid 2. And I think, what drives rivalries to me are the fan bases. The Jaguar Nation to me has the most rabid, passionate, intense, emotional fan base that I've seen in this league, hands down. I got into an argument about at a baseball game. Southern fans and Grambling folks. I was talking to Southern Knights and Grambling Knights, and they were fussing about the Bayou Classic. We were talking baseball. Southern. And what was brought up was Southern not getting it done against Alcorn. We're talking baseball, but they pivoted to football. It was all downhill from there. People were getting angry. Jaguar Nation fans were getting angry about what had happened, and I had to walk away from this conversation because it got a little bit too rich for my blood. But
I wish I'd been there. I'm angry still.
Exactly. Exactly. And I thought about you, Carlos, the whole conversation. I wish I could have recorded it because it was back and forth. But I think Southern and Alcorn are the second biggest rivalry there is. I think the fan bases, the media, I think that's what drives it too. I mean, Jackson State had a lot of media following them back in the day. Southern still does. The Advocate and 2 or 3 TV stations go with them everywhere they go. They have a great turnout. The Jaguar Nation turns out in droves. I think that's what helps drive these rivalries. And there's no question that starting at 21, it'll probably be Southern 1. It'll probably be Southern 1 because, or maybe 1A, because we're going to be in the West with Southern University. So I think that rivalry will be ratcheted up another notch.
Well, I'm already wondering, 2021, the fall, who's going where? I think the conference, will help out in that situation. Rivalries are good, but that's a good question. Maybe we need to explore more. Who is your number 2 rival, as you put it? Prairie View, I would say Dr. Prince Grambling. Am I in error?
No, you would be on spot with that one. That
okay.
Grambling game is a very special game because it's at the neutral site in Dallas, and you got all the atmosphere and the side acts going on, and it's always been a big game. For so long, Grambling beat the snot out of us. Then of late, we've been, turning the tide. But that's the number 2, no doubt.
Okay, guys, guess what? We're getting people pouring in now. Of course, Alcorn State University and Southern University is a rivalry in every sport. I have more respect for the Alcorn State program than Jackson State program. That was Jack. You're kind of similar to me in a way, huh? Well, you got to appreciate whether you agree or disagree. You could comment on that, Charles. I got a couple more coming in quickly. Ruth says, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like that got a while for me, but also I got the sense that I would think Southern would creep up with that number 2 rivalry for Prairie View, considering the back and forth games they've had in football.
Well, you right, but if I had to pick
at Mumford.
If I had to pick A2, yeah, hey man, hey.
At Mumford, it's a tougher game.
Hey. See, you know what? You was doing okay. You was doing okay until that moment right there. But that's okay though. But no, the Southern is very close. But the Grambling game, if you had to go 2 and 2A, yes. But I think Grambling just slightly because it's greater emphasis, believe it or not, that you beat Texas Southern, then Grambling, and then you deal with Southern when you deal with Southern at Mumford.
And Charles, this is a guy that said the Southern fans are equivalent to the Dallas Cowboys. They think they're greater than what they are. We'll deal with that one again in another day. I'm going to have to lay hands on Dr. Prince when I see him.
As long as you don't start speaking in tongue, we'll be all right.
I'm not agreeing with that one.
You say you're not agreeing with that one, Charles?
No. I will say this about the Dallas Cowboys. The NFL, on a week-to-week basis, the NFL is better when the Dallas Cowboys win. When the Dallas Cowboys don't win, there's enough venom out there. And I get it. Dallas Cowboys fans feel like at 0-15 they have a shot at making a play. I get all that. My buddy Emmanuel Barnes loves the Dallas Cowboys. He believes the Dallas Cowboys blue and silver. But, when the Cowboys win, the NFL's better for it. When they don't, people jump on them real quick.
Oh, Charles, you're lucky the mic didn't just drop just then. But Rube says Alcorn, Jackson, FAMU, and Grambling. Everybody wants Southern. Boy, they're pouring in. Edwin says Alcorn versus Southern rival in every sport. No, we're talking about football. I don't know about that. Maybe in football, but that's about it. Keyword is rival. I'd like to see some more wins than L's in the Southern Alcorn. That's the way to put it. That's the way to end that. Put it on that because, Charles, I don't know. my cousin worries about me. She says if Alcorn defeats Southern again, what will happen? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Ye shall know the tree by the fruit it bears. Okay. Charles, we appreciate it. It was fun. Well, we'll talk again real soon.
All right, you guys, be safe out there.
All right, be safe as well. Want to thank all of the guests, Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmond, Rod Walker. Remember, if you would like to make a donation to the Carlos Brown Show, the Cash App is the Carlos Brown Show. I want to thank Dr. Prince as well, everyone who participated, everyone who listened in. Once again, thank you for all the thoughts and the prayers of my health crisis. I'm feeling much better. Appreciate all of you. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. As always, peace and definitely, God bless.